It was the summer of 1968 in Scotswood, a community north of London in England, when two young children turned up dead. The only shock worse to come was learning the identity of the perpetrator. 4-year-old Martin Brown's lifeless body was discovered lying on the floor inside a boarded-up, condemned house, with blood and saliva trickling down his cheek. With no obvious signs of violence, police at first believed the child's death was a tragic accident. A few weeks later, 3-year-old Brian Howe was found strangled in an industrial area where the local children were known to play. He had various strange wounds, including puncture marks on his thigh, partially mutilated genitals, and clumps of missing hair. A few days later, another mark became evident on his belly, where it looked like someone had tried to scratch the letter M into his skin with a razor blade. The community was in a state of panic, and the police were looking for an answer. They started questioning all the children in the area. One child, in particular, seemed to be acting very strange. 11-year-old Mary Bell reacted oddly and was very evasive. She was a child of the streets, born to a mother who struggled to make ends meet, often leaving Mary to fend for herself amidst the chaos of their troubled home. From an early age, Mary's innocence was shattered by the harsh realities of life. Raised in an environment rife with neglect and abuse, she learned to navigate the world with a hardened exterior, concealing the pain that simmered beneath the surface. Martin Brown's grieving mother, June Brown, reported that sometime after his death, Mary knocked at her front door, smiled, and asked to see Martin. When June said that Martin was dead, Mary said, "Oh, I know he's dead. I wanted to see him in his coffin," still smiling. As the police investigation intensified, Mary continued to act strangely. At one point, she claimed she had seen another 8-year-old boy with Brian on the day he was murdered. She claimed the boy hit Brian and was playing with a pair of scissors at one point. Mary's story went nowhere, as the so-called boy had an alibi. He was at the airport on the afternoon of Brian's murder. However, by mentioning the pair of scissors, a piece of evidence that had not been publicly revealed, Mary implicated herself. The day that Brian Howe was buried, Mary was observed by a detective standing outside the Howe's house. The detective was horrified to see Mary watching while the coffin came out, laughing and rubbing her hands together. According to her friend Norma, Mary confessed to killing Brian and even brought her to the boarded-up house afterward to show her the body. Mary described to Norma how she had squeezed his neck and strangled him, claiming to have enjoyed it. When the police questioned Mary again, she remained evasive and admitted to nothing. She refused to make a statement and accused Norma of lying and trying to get her into trouble. Mary was released at first, but after additional information was provided by Norma, she was brought back into the station and finally admitted to being there when Brian was killed. Still, she pushed all the blame onto Norma for the murder. Leading up to and during the trial, new evidence and information surfaced. Just 2 days after Martin Brown was found dead, a nursery school in the area was broken into and vandalized. School and cleaning supplies were strewn about the room, and 4 disturbing notes were left behind. The childishly scribbled notes were filled with profanity, but more unsettling were the messages about murder, including one that started, "We did murder Martin Brown." Another one said, "I murder so that I may come back." It also came out that Mary had been overheard by other children screaming, "I am a murderer," and pointing to the house where Brian was found, saying, "That's where I killed." While awaiting trial, Mary made many strange comments to the prison guards, including, "I like hurting little things that can't fight back." Mary's lack of emotions, unresponsiveness, and strange behavior led psychiatrists to label her as psychopathic. Mary Bell was charged with 2 counts of manslaughter. On December 17, 1968, she was read her verdicts. Mary was convicted of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility based on the psychological assessment presented at trial. She was to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, which is basically an indefinite sentence of imprisonment. Nearly 9 years later, in 1977, Mary would briefly escape from the adult prison to which she had just been transferred but was quickly caught. Despite that, she was released from prison after serving just 12 years in 1980. She was 23 years old. She was granted anonymity to start a new life under a new name.